Hey everybody, it's Lon.TV, and we're taking a look today at the Lenovo Mirage camera. This is a small 180 VR camera that shoots all of its images in 3D. In fact, each of these lenses here has its own 13 megapixel sensor, and it also does 4K video as well. And you're going to see some image samples throughout the course of this review, and I'll link to a bunch of things that you can watch directly down below. And the neat thing about these cameras is that you can share your 3D images or videos with folks, and you can get them a cheap cardboard headset like this to slip their mobile phone in, or they can watch on something more expensive like the Mirage VR system we looked at the other day to get, I think, a pretty compelling experience here that I think is a little better than some of those 360 cameras we looked at recently that only shoot in 2 dimensions. So we'll be taking a closer look at this camera, which costs $299 in just a second. But I do want to let you know, in the interest of full disclosure, that this is on loan from Lenovo. So when we're done with it, it goes back to them. All the opinions you're about to hear are my own. Nobody is paying for this review, and no one has reviewed this video before I uploaded it. So let's get into it and see what this thing is all about. So let's take a closer look now at the hardware. This is a 180-degree camera, which means that it can see everything in front of it, including things that might be below the lenses and above the lenses, but not behind it. So basically the cutoff here is on the side of the camera. It sees everything in front of it, and as a result, there's no viewfinder on the back of it here. It is completely barren there. It's just a battery cover. Because really all you got to do is just set it up on a tripod and point it, and it's going to pick up everything that it can see in front of it. And the cool thing about it is that it is in 3D when you look at it through one of these VR headsets, because each of these cameras is independent in picking up its own image, and it generally works really well, especially on one of these VR headsets, but even on the Google Cardboard. I've got some links that I'll put down below in the video description where you can see some sample footage if you do have a cardboard or a VR headset to experience it for yourself. As you'll see, the photos look better than the videos, but I think it does do a pretty nice job of conveying depth. And that's something that I think might be of interest to folks, especially if you've got family members and you want to show some 3D movies of the kids. You can ship them a $25 Google Cardboard. They can use their smartphone and then watch the videos and other things that you shoot with the camera here. But you'll want to be careful about how you hold the camera while taking pictures. And if you hold it like a traditional point and shoot, your knuckles and your fingers might appear in the image because anything that's in the front of the camera will show up. Check out this shot I took a little earlier. Looks fine, right? But then when we look to the right and to the left, you'll see my fingers popping into the scene there because, again, they were crossing the border there between the back of the camera and the front. So my advice would be to kind of hold it like this, where your hands stay safely behind the front of the camera, and you should have clean images as a result. It is very Spartan, as you can see. There's not much to it. One thing that I found while using it is that it's very easy to touch the lenses and get fingerprints all over them, so you want to be careful handling it just to not smudge up the lenses. There are 3 modes that the camera will shoot in: still, video, or live streaming, and we'll do a live streaming test in another video coming up, and that works through your phone for live streaming, but you can shoot video and photos standalone. You can adjust the mode here by hitting the F button there at the top. It has 16 gigabytes of internal storage, and then it also has a micro SD card slot there on the side. And I actually recommend using an SD card with this because it really takes quite a while to transfer images out of the camera using its internal Wi-Fi back to the app that you're going to see in a minute. There is an app that can control it, but again, you can take this thing out in the field without the app and just hit the shutter button here at the top to get going with it. There's a USB Type-C port here for charging. I was not able to transfer images through that port. I don't know if that's an upcoming firmware feature or not, but at the moment you can't transfer your images with any other method other than the SD card or a Wi-Fi connection to the mobile app. There is a tripod mount here at the bottom. That's a standard mount, which is great. So I highly recommend putting this on a tripod, although as you'll see in a few minutes, the stabilizer on here is not bad. But you definitely need to think about your viewers when you are shooting in something that might be looked at through one of these VR headsets. You can easily make your audience sick if you start moving around too much. So locking it down might be the better way to go with this. Battery life is about 2 hours on it. And one of the neat things is that the battery is removable, so you can pop out the battery when it dies and put in another one that is charged up. In fact, the one they sent me had 2 batteries packed in. I'm not sure if that's what every one comes with. You might want to check on their website when you go to purchase it, but it was nice to see that option here that you can actually have an extra battery on hand if you happen to kill the battery on this one out in the field. The only issue, though, is that they did not have a standalone charger for the battery, so you'd have to charge both of them in the camera before you head on out with it. But nice to see a little bit of a change in the usual trend, and they probably did this because it doesn't have a screen on the back of it, which allows you to have more easy access to the battery, yet keep the form factor here. Other than that, it's a pretty Spartan device. There's not a lot of settings on the camera itself. Most of those are done through the app, and even within the app, it is pretty Spartan. So let's boot the camera up and take a look and see how we can control it with the app. So here is the mobile app running on my iPhone, and what you're seeing here on the front page are some of the images I downloaded from the camera via Wi-Fi at a glacially slow pace, but that's really the only way you can share images from your phone is to download them first via the Wi-Fi. I'll show you some image quality in a second. First, though, I want to show you the camera controls. So this is what you get here. Pretty limited stuff at the moment. There, of course, is no focus because it just picks up everything that is in front of it, so not a lot of depth of field to this camera. And you also get this fisheye preview, and that's all you get. There's no way to stretch out the image and get a preview as to what it might look like on screen. So you can't kind of scroll around the scene in a virtual way like we've seen on some of the other 360 cameras we've looked at. You do, though, get some basic exposure controls here at the top, including ISO and general exposure here, but just make sure you set them back to auto before you head back out in the field with the camera in standalone mode, because there is no screen on the back of it to preview your image first, and if you make a setting that you were able to see on the app and then head out in the field without the app loaded, you're going to perhaps be disappointed with the images that you get back. Over here are the quality settings. So I have it set now for 9 megapixels for the image. Each image sensor on this shoots at 13 megapixels, but it combines it into a single image, which is why the max we're seeing here is 9. And I'll show you again the image quality in a second. And you also have some basic white balance settings here as well. Really not all that much. Now you'll notice below the fisheye you have the ability to switch into video mode here. So very similar controls here to what we just saw on the still image mode, just the only difference being that you can shoot at 4K UHD, which is slightly less than 4K, or 1080p HD. And my advice is to shoot at 4K, and the reason is that this image is getting distorted essentially and put onto that 4K file, and then it's going to be stretched back out again for when you play it back on your devices, and it's never going to look as good as a true regular 2D 4K camera, but you need as much resolution as possible to make that image look as passable as possible. So my advice is shoot at 4K whenever you can. And the live stream, which we're not going to do today because I really can't at the moment. I have to get in touch with Lenovo and Google support on this. It's not working with my branded YouTube account. It's telling me that live streaming is not enabled. So I'm unable to select the specific channel that I have under my account, and therefore I can't test this for you at the moment, but I'm going to be getting that worked out, and we'll have that live stream test in the near future. But if you are someone who is doing a pretty sizable YouTube channel or even a moderately sized one and have the branded account set up where other people can come in and help you with it, it looks like it's not working with that at the moment, and you'll be unable to switch to the channel that you want to broadcast to. So I've got about 5 or 6 channels that I have access to, and I can't get to any of them on here, so it looks like the app is kind of limited in that way. Let's take a look now at some image quality now that you've seen how the app works. Now, it's incredibly difficult to really show you the true image quality in this video, given that we are essentially doing a 2-dimensional video to review a 3-dimensional product. So I'm going to put links down in the video description for where you can find these images in their native 3D, so you can browse around them a little bit and see how they work with your own eyes. So you can check that out in a link you'll be able to access. But here's just one example of an image, and I'm pretty pleased with the image quality overall. It's nice and sharp. This is a still image, by the way, and you can zoom it out here and you can get a feel for just how much the camera picks up here. So as you can see, it really picks up everything that is in front of the camera, up and down. It even has my shoes here too, so it really does get a good portion of the image, and you can just kind of point it in one direction and get that in there. And of course, if you were looking at this on Google Cardboard or on one of those VR glasses, you would see this in 3 dimensions. And the same is true of video here. This is again playing through the mobile app, and you've got all this range of motion here, and you do get a lot of image to check out here. You can even see my tripod there, so you want to find a tripod that doesn't have one of those plates that sticks out in front of the camera, because it really will pick up everything that is in front of it, no matter where it is. Now, of course, this is a 2D image, but if I was on my phone and I had a Google Cardboard headset, what I can do here is go back to the little cardboard icon there at the bottom and switch over to a cardboard view, which I'll do right now. And this will give me a true 3D image with each of these images that you see on screen here shot with a different lens on the camera. And this one might be a fun one to throw on the extras channel so you can check out some real depth here. There's a lot of things to look at with the balloons flying around and all that kind of stuff. So really cool, and it actually doesn't look bad here. The still photos, of course, look a lot better, but the videos are actually better than I expected. Not fantastic. They don't look as great when you are looking at them through a VR headset, for example, that's relatively low resolution, but I found the image quality, as you see there, to be slightly better than what you might experience with one of those 360 cameras, which have more of an image to stretch out given the resolution that it's recording with. This is less of an image to stretch out, and as such, it looks a little bit better. And it's really cool to experience things in 3 dimensions. Another thing that I found to be pretty nice about the camera is that it has a decent stabilizer on it. So if you do want to subject your viewers to some motion, you can do that, and it may not make them sick. It will maybe give them a good sense of motion there. So I'm going to pull up this image here that I shot on my front porch as I'm walking around, and you can see it's not bumping around all that much even as I'm walking here. It's very smooth, and it might be a nice way to convey some motion in a shot here without making your audience totally sick, but everyone's mileage will vary on that, of course. It really does give you a pretty good stabilizer here, which did surprise me because we don't usually see good stabilizers on these types of cameras here. So that was a good addition. Sound quality on it is not great. I was finding with some of my videos the audio was out of sync, but some of the later ones that I've shot with it, I think there was a firmware update that got pushed down to it, have been working better. So the synchronization is okay, but the audio quality is kind of tinny and maybe a little bit better than a GoPro might be, but not spectacular. And there's no mic input on here either, so you'll have to sync up your audio in post-production. And that's another problem with this at the moment. There's really no way to edit this video at the time that I'm shooting this review. They are apparently coming out with a VR180 desktop app that might allow you to trim some things or make some basic edits, but right now you can't trim this video. You've got to upload everything or nothing at all, and the mobile app really has no way of doing any kind of editing at all. I would imagine that might be something they add into it later. I did try to load it into Final Cut Pro, which does support some of these new 360 VR video formats on the Mac. It does not recognize these videos as editable videos just yet. But because this is a Google thing, they are significantly limiting where you can send this stuff off to. So in the case of still images, your options are Google Photos and nothing else. So if you want somebody to be able to look at this image in 3D in VR, it looks like at the moment from a default standpoint, Google Photos is the only place you can send these images to so that somebody could view them in 3D. I did find, though, that the 180 scrolling works on Facebook without having to do anything special. So I took this image, copied it off the SD card, and just uploaded it to Facebook. And as you can see here, I'm able to scroll around with it. But videos do not work on Facebook. They appear only at the moment to work on YouTube. So you can put them up on YouTube, and if somebody has a VR-capable version of YouTube, they can watch the video in 3D with that 180 VR. Likewise, those videos will work on Google Photos as well, but a little harder to share with people on the Google Photos platform. And the lack of editing here really gets me right now because there are things I may not want to have in the video, maybe cut things out or make it shorter, and I'm a bit limited there. I'm going to try to start trimming some stuff in QuickTime and see if I might be able to at least make some basic trims on here. Hopefully that will retain the metadata that YouTube needs to know that this is a 3D VR video. So there are some limitations right now, but these things can all be fixed in software later. And this is really indicative of this entire 360 and now 180 camera landscape, is that everyone's kind of doing their own thing, and we're starting to see some degree of standardization and agreement as to how files should operate and whatnot, but we're still seeing a lot of proprietary stuff that makes it really hard to have a file that's very easily interoperable with all these other services out there. And before we close out, I figured I would show you what the VR interface is for consuming this media. And we've got the Mirage headset on right now from Lenovo, but this will also work with other Google Daydream devices that use the Daydream headset. So some of those higher end smartphones will work with this. I'm going to start off with Google Photos here, and it's got its own Daydream app. And when I pull that up, what it does is it puts all of my VR photos and videos front and center for me. I did find that it took a while for these images to get here, but once they're there, you can click on them, and in this instance here, I can look at this selfie in 3 dimensions, which is pretty cool, so you get a nice 3D image here. I've also got the ability to play back some videos as well, so I can go back to this interface here, and if I want to check out that scene from the front porch again here, I can do that. And again, I can look around as we're walking here, hopefully not making myself motion sick in the process, but you get a feel for how that works. It is actually a pretty compelling experience having the 3 dimensions here to this, because it does have depth and looks a little more realistic. Whoa, we're going to go off the porch there, than it might if I was just looking at a regular 360 2-dimensional image. So there is some pretty cool stuff you can do here with Google Photos. I'm not sure how sharing works with this, because these are all of my photos. I'm not sure how I can maybe see things that other people send to me, so I may need to experiment with that a little bit more. I also found that there were some images that I had taken with other cameras that are in 2 dimensions that are also available on here too, which is kind of cool. So really a pretty decent experience on Google Photos, but it does take a while to get those images to your mobile phone and then up to the platform here, and there is some processing time involved with it too. Now, YouTube is the other app that works with these videos here. And it takes a little bit of work to find what you're looking for on YouTube, because they're really pushing you towards some curated content here. But if you go over to Account, you can pull up your personal YouTube account after you've signed into it. Go over to My Videos here, and you can poke around inside of the things that you uploaded on your own channel. And of course, you can browse other channels the same way as well. We can pull up this video here from the side of my road here. I stuck the camera in the side of the road, and again, you can see where the limits are of your viewing angle here, but in this headset it actually looks really nice. These videos are at 30 frames per second, so you're not going to get a 60 FPS experience here, but it looks good. I mean, you've got good depth here, which is something you don't typically get with these other 360 cameras that just shoot in a single dimension. So the depth is definitely convincing. You can look down at the road here, as you can see. It may look a little jumpier in the headset than it actually is to my eyes, and that's because I'm Chromecasting the headset right now to my video system, which does reduce some of the frame rate. But overall, it's a pretty decent experience so far. Again, you're kind of locked into the Google ecosystem here, because they are pushing this Daydream VR thing pretty heavily, which is what this camera is designed to work with. So you will be kind of maybe boxed into YouTube and Google for a little while until some of these other services figure out how to work with this particular content. And I think it's just going to be a matter of getting the right metadata tags inserted on the videos. So we'll have to maybe revisit this soon to see what more we can do with it after we can start editing the videos and maybe putting them in different places. But overall, I'm pleased with it. I actually like this one a little better than some of the 360 cameras I have played with, primarily because of the 3D. It looks great on these headsets. I think it'll look very nice on Google Cardboard as well, and I think that does make this kind of an accessible medium for more people than just standard VR might be. So if you have friends and family that you want to share these videos with, get them a cheap pair of Google Cardboard or some other headset for your mobile phone, and I think you'll have a great time sharing some of this content in a new and different way. So we're getting there. This still feels like the minimally viable product to me. I think there are some things it could be doing better, especially for editing and other stuff, but I am actually having fun with it, and that's not the same kind of experience I had with some of these other 2D 360 cameras that I've reviewed here in the past. Now what I'm going to do is put a bunch of footage up on my Extras channel. I'll also put a link down below in the video description so you can see a Google Photos album where you can maybe poke around in some of these still images also. And I'll probably take a few more over the course of the week here and add to those playlists and albums as I'm going here, just to give you a better experience with it. But overall, it's not bad, and I think if you are invested in the Google Daydream system, I think you'll have some fun with this one, and hopefully we'll get support for more services soon. And until next time, this is Lon.TV. Thanks for watching.
This channel is brought to you by the Lon.TV supporters, including gold-level supporters of the Black Eyed and Blues Music Hour podcast, Chris Allegretta, and Kalyan Kumar. If you want to help the channel, you can by contributing as little as $1 a month. Head over to lon.tv/support to learn more. And don't forget to subscribe. Visit lon.tv/s.